Today I am presenting your final project. This project is the same project I assign in all my classes, and it is designed to be as an opportunity for you to create a master work or project for the class. Up until now, we have worked on projects that you were given specific parameters, certain materials you're working with, or processes, or maybe ideas you're dealing with. Now, here at the end of the class is your time to, your opportunity to make something that's really important to you relating to the subject matter of the class. What I'm going to do here in this video is basically cover the three parts of the project. You're going to be doing a proposal, you're going to build your project, and then you're going to document your project. And then I'm also going to show you some examples of documentation that other people have done. I'm going to show you examples of proposals that other artists have done, so that you can move forward with this project. Okay, first of all, what is the project? There are only 3 rules for your final project. First, the project must involve the subject matter of the class. So if you're in a sculpture class, your project must involve building a sculpture of some sort. If you're in the 3D design class, your project must involve constructing a 3D object at some point in the project. Second, it must be an idea that you're very interested in. I believe that the most valuable and interesting art and design comes out of a person exploring a personal interest that they have. And so that's what I want you to do here. Really look at what interests you and come up with a way that you can make a sculpture or a piece of 3D design that relates to that interest. This is a great opportunity to get credit for doing something you really want to do. So give this some thought and do something you really want to do. I've found that if a person is really engaged and interested in the project, they're going to work very hard and learn a lot through the project. Third, your final project must be appropriate to the amount of time we have to complete the project. So normally we have 3 or 4 weeks to complete the final project. So there's a lot of things that can be constructed in 3 or 4 weeks. Sometimes people will have a good idea of making something that takes less time than that. That's fine. Maybe you can build more of those and make a larger project out of building smaller things. So you may do more than one project. Okay, so that's the project. The first thing you need to do to get going on the project is come up with an idea. So what I want everyone to do is really think about what you want to do, and then contact me. Contact me, either email me or call me, and we can discuss what might be appropriate, and I can help you come up with maybe some resources and things that will help you be successful with your project. Once you have the idea, everyone is going to put together a proposal for your project. Most large-scale sculpture or 3D design projects involve a proposal. The goal of the proposal is to communicate your idea to somebody else. So in this case, you're going to basically be communicating your idea to the class. And the value in that is you are, first of all, going to be able to think through your idea. We want you to answer the questions, the who, what, when, where, and why of your project. So, those things will help you imagine how you're going to build the project and work through some of the problems you may have before even starting. And then you'll be able to, what you'll be doing is emailing the class email with either a PowerPoint or just some images and some words that describe your project. Or maybe you want to make a video, or maybe it's a document that has the images and the words. But somehow you need to communicate to the class what you're going to do. I'll have some examples of professional artists and how they use proposals in a moment. After you've presented your proposal, the class is going to give you feedback. I'm going to give you feedback. Then you're going to go ahead and build the project. So you're going to do whatever it takes to realize your project. If you're working with clay, you're going to get out the clay and do that. If you're working with wood or cardboard or whatever your material and process is, again, we're at home, so we have to work with what we have available, but you're going to build the project. And then the final part of the project is documenting your work. So this means photographing or creating a video or creating a website or creating a document that can communicate what you did. So your documentation needs to include some visual representation of what your object looked like. So it may be making this object and photographing it from different views. And then some written words or an artist statement that describes what you did and what you think about your project. This project will be due on the final day of class, your documentation. And again, we will be submitting your final project documentation. Just email the class email list. Next, I'm going to show you some examples of professional artist proposals as well as student work that has been completed for this project in the past. Christo and John Claude are a husband and wife artist team who have made some really amazing pieces of public art. Part of their process involves pretty in-depth drawings that are part of their proposals. So that's why I'd like to show this project to you. They're very ambitious projects, and the way they use proposals works very well. So this piece we're looking at here is called The Gates. This is installed in Central Park. Christo and John Claude first had the idea for this project way back in 1979, and yeah, here's one of the preliminary drawings that was a part of the proposal way back in 1979. Basically, this piece involves installing these gates that have this cloth, these flowing cloth that go all over the paths that go through Central Park. And back in 1979 and kind of going forward, they tried hard to get the project done, but, they kind of ran into roadblocks. It took all the way until 2005 for them to successfully install the piece. So this is a 25-year project, and I think it's a real interesting thing to think about, somebody realizing an idea after 25 years and working on it that long. But the thing that is really important to us with this final project is the way they use their skills with drafting or drawing in their proposal. So Christo is an excellent draftsman, and he creates these amazing drawings of their projects. And you'll notice on this particular drawing, he's sort of drawn over a photograph to show what the piece might look like in Central Park. On the left, he's got a map that kind of outlines how it will go over the paths. Below that, there is a technical drawing of how the stands for the pieces will be constructed. And even below that, they have an actual piece of cloth that's going to be used for the piece. And so these pieces of documentation answer all the questions: the who, what, when, where, and why. And you'll notice on these drawings there are also words, so where they can't get the pieces, get the ideas through just through the imagery, they add words. And so when you guys are putting together your proposals, I want you to think about that. Think about, well, what are you good at? Are you good at video? Maybe you want to make a video that's going to communicate your piece. Maybe you're good at 3D modeling. Maybe you're good at some other way of communicating your idea. But with our proposals, we want to be there some kind of visual imagery of what your piece is, as well as some kind of words that help describe what you're going to do. Again, you're gonna present that to the class normally we would do that in person in front of the class. Since we are not meeting as a class and we're doing this as an electronic online class, we're going to do it through the class email. Another project that I think is appropriate to share is the Crazy Horse Memorial. So this piece is a little closer to home. This is in South Dakota. The Crazy Horse Memorial was originally the idea of Chief Henry Standing Bear, as well as Koraka Jaworski, who was one of the sculptors of the Mount Rushmore, which is in the Black Hills as well. They came up with this idea for this monumental portrait of Crazy Horse, and it's basically what you see here is the two men that had the idea, along with a maquette, and a maquette is a small model of the project. They're standing with the maquette in front of the actual mountain that it will be carved out of. And here is the maquette with the piece a little further along. You can see the head is carved out here. And just to show how big this piece is, that head is like 90 feet tall. So it's an enormous sculpture. In fact, it's Mount Rushmore is huge, but the whole of Mount Rushmore could fit within just the head of this piece. So it's a very, very large piece. But for our purposes, sometimes making an actual model out of clay or some other material that shows what your piece may look like can be a good way of communicating your ideas visually. The next piece I want to talk about is even closer to home. This piece is by Klaus Oldenburg and Kuji van Bruggen. They're another husband and wife team. This is titled Torn Notebook, and this is installed in Lincoln, Nebraska. And Klaus Oldenburg is sort of famous for like pop art. He would make and recreate common everyday objects out of different materials. And they started doing, Kuji and Klaus started doing large public projects. And this is one they got commissioned for. And the idea is, when they're trying to come up with ideas, they kind of traveled across country and were writing things in these notebooks like they like to do. And Klaus had this habit of sort of tearing his notebooks in half. And they thought, well, that might be an interesting idea, a sculpture about the process of collecting observations, in a notebook. And then, this torn notebook has a pretty interesting visual to it. And so here are some examples of the sort of maquette or model that they created for their project. And I think one thing I like to say about this piece is that, in all these pieces, it's really this individual idea. I mean, who would think that a torn notebook would be a good subject for a large-scale public sculpture? But, the artists, through the process of coming up with the ideas and going back and forth, they caught onto this individual interest, and it turned out to be a great piece. And so I think you guys, as you're thinking about what to do for this project, really thinking about what is important to you and what you find interesting and valuable, and putting that into the piece is what's going to really make it potentially interesting and valuable to other people, and make it valuable for you to create. I think the best art and design throughout history really comes from the same place. People really exploring those things that are interesting and valuable to them. The last one I want to share is a piece titled Cloudgate. This is in Chicago. The people from Chicago call it the Bean. It's this huge stainless steel piece that's a shined up stainless steel that sort of reflects the surroundings, reflects the skyline, reflects the sky, reflects the people underneath it. It's a really amazing piece of art. It's in the Millennium Park in Chicago. Here's the piece of documentation or the imagery that came before the piece was actually created, and you can see how the artist Anish Kapoor was able to really communicate the idea of the piece even before it was created. So you can see the people standing under it, the reflections of everything around. And this was done digitally. This is a digital image created by the artist studio. So if some of you, as you're thinking about how you want to present your proposal, really think about what you are good at, how you can communicate this. Again, we want some kind of visual representation of your piece as well as some words. We want to know, you want to be able to email this to us. Normally we would do this with a presentation to the group, but we'll email it and get some feedback, and then you can start on your project. Next, I'm going to show some projects that people have made for the class. This first one is titled The Bridge, and this artist came in and she gave her proposal to the class, and her proposal was she gave it, and it was about sort of making something that related to nature. She was very interested in nature, and after she got done with her proposal, she came to me and said, I don't know, I don't want to make that sculpture that I said I wanted to do in the proposal. And that's fine. As you guys are going through, if you want to change your mind as you're going, I'm always open to that. But I said to her, why don't you just go and since you don't know what you want to do, maybe start today or tomorrow and just make a new sculpture every day. And at some point, you'll hit on something that's a good idea and something that works for you. And so she did it. She went out, she set up her camera on this tripod and just started doing some things out. And this happened to be along the river. And she was able to put together this pretty interesting piece out of just going out and doing something. This artist, her idea when she gave her proposal was to, her proposal was to have these two life-size steel samurai figures in mid-flight with their swords fighting. And she gave this beautiful proposal. I like to encourage you guys to think big in the proposal. It doesn't cost any more to make a proposal of a big idea than it does to make a proposal of a small idea. So sometimes thinking big is the best thing. And so Crystal did that. And then once we got done with the proposal, it was time to build the piece. And I asked Crystal, okay, now you're going to build it. Do you have any skills or experience working with metal? And Crystal said, nope, I don't. I've never done that. This was a 3D design course. I asked her, Crystal, do you have maybe you have some money that you can use to help get some help, with this? And she's like, nope, I've got $0 for the budget. I said, well, maybe what you should do is kind of get to the essence of the idea and see what's really important to you. And I said, well, what's the most important thing about this, or what really gets you excited about this idea? And she said that she really wanted to make something big, something, the biggest thing she'd ever made before was maybe the size of a bread box in this class, or, a loaf of bread. She decided, she wanted to make something bigger than her. I said, okay, yeah, you could do that. And she also thought that it would be really amazing to have a piece that was in front of the public and she could install in a public place. So I said, well, why don't we go over to the welding shop at the Fort Omaha campus and talk to the people there and see if we might be able to use some of their scrap. And so we did, and they said, yeah, you can go through the scrap bin. So we went through the scrap bin, and she collected this metal, and then we went into the welding shop, and we took a couple hours, and I helped Crystal sort of put this piece together. Once she had the piece together, she took photographs of it, contacted the campus dean of the Fort campus, and they agreed to let her install the piece on the campus as a piece of permanent public art. And so she was able to realize her what was important to her about this project. And what I love about this project is the fact that it was very empowering. This was a big thing. This was something that really pushed Crystal into doing things that were out of her comfort level. And you could see the the empowerment that came from doing this. And so for me, this is a fabulous project for a final project. Here we have another 3D design student who, again, didn't know what he wanted to do. He was a graphic design major, and it came time for this final project, and I gave him the same assignment you all have. And, he just didn't know what to do. He's like, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, one approach that people can take is just to think about what you like to do outside of maybe work and school. And he said, well, I really like to play games. And I was thinking, like a lot of people his age, it was video games. So I thought, oh, you want to do something related to video games? He said, no, I kind of like board games. I like to play board games a lot. I said, well, that's great. Why don't you make a board game? And he's like, well, how do I get that three-dimensional component? I was like, well, maybe you make it a structure. And so he came, he ended up buying some wood and building this sort of box structure, coming up with the rules for the game. And so this fits our three-dimensional object requirement, and it fits his interest. And he made this fun game, and here's the class on the critique day playing the game. But what I found most interesting and valuable about this is this student really found out that he enjoyed working with his hands and building things, and it kind of changed his life. He was in graphic design, but he didn't much like working on the computer. He ended up moving into the trades. I think he ended up becoming a heating and air conditioning person, and ended up getting his degree at Metro, and has had a long career in that area. And so, this project really changed his direction. And to me, that's a really powerful thing, how making something can change the whole direction of your life. Here's a sculpture student who was getting her associate's degree in art and graphic design, and she was really interested in woodworking, and so she came up with this idea for this piece of this wood sculpture that involved kind of a graphical design. And so she took and constructed this pretty complex wood structure with this design created out of different colored golf tees. Turned out to be a great piece, ended up winning the top prize in the student art exhibition, and was collected by the school. It was a really great thing for her. Here's another 3D design student who, came to this final project. She didn't know what to do. I asked her, well, another approach to this is in 3D design, we can make functional objects. And she said, I said, is there something you want to make? Maybe you want to make a piece of furniture or something. She said, well, I really would like an action figure for this anime cartoon that I really enjoy. I thought, okay, well, that wouldn't be my first idea, but if that's what you're interested in, let's go for it. And it was a great thing for her. She ended up creating these likenesses of the figures out of clay, and ended up making molds, and then casting these molds and painting the heads. She ended up purchasing these action figure bodies and sewing the clothing, and made these action figures that were an incredible amount of work. She spent hundreds of hours on this thing and worked much harder than if I had given an assignment. So again, finding that thing that you really want to do and you really want to make helped this person learn an incredible amount and get some of these objects that she wanted. This guy was probably one of the worst students in the class at the time. This was I think this was a sculpture class, and he'd kind of gone through class, and he'd quickly make his project, and then he would spend the rest of the time kind of just messing around and disrupting the class, and really wasn't into it. But we got around to the final project, and he was like, gosh, I don't know what to do. And then he said, well, I make these little sculptures for this game that I play, these little action, or they're little game pieces. I'm like, well, that's a sculpture, right? He's like, well, yeah. And so he turned from the worst student into the class into maybe one of the best students, because he began creating these things that he was really into. He was really enjoying doing this, and he really wanted to make these things, and they're pretty amazing objects. So again, finding something that you're into and that you want to make is very important. Here, this person was into sort of meditation and crocheting and kind of that relationship. So she sort of made this mandala piece, she called it, and it's kind of the three-dimensional component as it kind of juts out from the wall. But a very interesting piece that was really ambitious, and this person exploring something important to her. This person wanted to learn to weld plastic, kind of came across it somewhere, and she decided to create this bouquet. She was interested in flowers and floral stuff, and ended up making this really amazing flower arrangement out of plastic utensils, different colored plastic utensils. The final piece I'm going to show you here is a sculpture student who was very interested in textiles and sewing, and she decided to make this tree. And so she wanted to make this very lifelike large tree out of fabric. So she found this fabric that she could sort of make more structural with a treatment that looks a lot like bark, and then they added these leaves. They created this really beautiful piece out of things that interested her. So as you all go forward and decide what you're going to do for your final project and how you're going to do it, really try to pick something you're interested in, and really try and think big and think about something that's really important to you. As you decide on your idea, please contact me via email or by phone, and we'll discuss your idea, sort of get the go-ahead, and then you can move forward with the proposal and getting started on your project. And then finally, documenting your project with photographs or video, and writing an artist statement to present to the class on, or preferably before, the final day. Good luck.